Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. Imagine waking up one morning and being told that because of the color of your skin, you cannot go to certain schools, cannot live in certain places, cannot vote, cannot travel freely, and cannot even walk on the same side of the street as someone else. For decades, this was the daily reality in South Africa. It was a world divided. A world controlled by fear. A world where millions lived without freedom. But from this darkness rose a man whose courage would change the destiny of an entire nation. His name was Nelson Mandela. Mandela's story begins far from the cities and politics, in a peaceful village called Mvezo, where he was born in 1918. He grew up running barefoot across the hills, listening to the elders of the tribe share stories of brave kings and wise chiefs. These stories taught him that leadership wasn't about power, it was about responsibility. Even as a child, he sensed that dignity and respect were things every person deserved. But the world he grew up in was changing. South Africa was falling deeper under apartheid, a system that separated people by race. White citizens were granted privileges, while black people, who made up the majority, were denied almost every basic right. Mandela saw something deeply wrong, something that went against the values he had grown up with. As he left his village to study in Johannesburg, the injustice became impossible to ignore. He saw black workers punished unfairly, families living in poverty, and police treating innocent people with cruelty. These experiences pushed him to study law, not for wealth or status, but to defend those who had no one else to stand for them. Mandela joined the African National Congress, hoping to fight this injustice with courage and words. He began organizing peaceful marches, inspiring speeches, and public protests that demanded equality. Thousands joined him. But the government responded with violence. Protesters were beaten, arrested, or even killed. Mandela realized that this was not just a political fight, this was a fight for humanity, for dignity, for the soul of South Africa. Despite the risks, Mandela refused to back down. He worked harder, traveled wider, and spoke louder. His message was simple: freedom belongs to everyone. But his determination made him the government's biggest enemy. In 1964, he was arrested along with several other leaders. During his trial, he stood not as a man begging for mercy, but as a voice speaking for an entire nation. His speech that day became immortal. He said he dreamed of a democratic society where all people lived together in harmony. And he was prepared to die for that dream. Those words echoed around the world. But they did not save him. He was sentenced to life imprisonment. Mandela was taken to Robben Island, a prison surrounded by cold ocean waters. His cell was small, barely large enough for a bed. The prison guards forced him to break stones under the blazing sun. He slept on a thin mat on the floor. Letters from his family came only once every few months. His children grew up without him. His mother and eldest son passed away while he was behind bars, and he was not allowed to attend their funerals. Yet, through all this suffering, Mandela refused to let bitterness fill his heart. He once said, "If I didn't leave my anger behind, I would still be in prison." So instead of allowing the prison to break him, he used the time to learn, to teach, and to strengthen his belief that freedom would come, if he remained patient, disciplined, and hopeful. Year by year, Mandela transformed from a prisoner into a global symbol of resistance. People across continents marched with posters saying "Free Mandela." Musicians wrote songs about him. Leaders of nations demanded his release. The world had discovered the extraordinary strength of this quiet, humble man locked away on an island. The pressure on South Africa's government grew too strong. Finally, on the 11th of February 1990, after 27 long years behind bars, Mandela walked out of prison. He was older now, his hair grey, his face lined with time. But his spirit was unbroken. The moment he stepped outside, thousands greeted him with cheers, tears, and hope. It felt as if the entire nation had taken its first breath of freedom. But Mandela knew the journey was not over. South Africa was wounded, divided, and angry. Many expected war. But Mandela insisted on peace. He met with leaders who once supported apartheid, not with hatred, but with a willingness to forgive. He believed that forgiveness was the only way to heal a broken nation. In 1994, South Africa held its first democratic election. Millions, black, white, rich, poor, stood in long lines, some waiting for hours, just for a chance to vote for the first time in their lives. And when the results were announced, Nelson Mandela became the first black president of South Africa. But power did not change him. He did not rule with anger. He ruled with compassion. He encouraged people who once hated each other to work together. He visited the families of those who had opposed him. He invited his former jailers to official meetings. He believed that real freedom was not just about breaking chains, but about building unity. Mandela served only one term as president, choosing to step down peacefully, something rare among world leaders. But even after leaving office, he continued to advocate for peace, education, and justice. His life became a shining example of how one person, armed with courage and kindness, can transform a nation. His autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, is not just a book, it is a journey through pain, hope, and victory. It teaches us that freedom is not won in a single moment. It is a long walk, a walk of sacrifice, patience, and unshakable belief in what is right. Mandela's story reminds us that even in the darkest times, there is always a possibility for change. That fear can be replaced by courage. That hatred can be replaced by forgiveness. And that impossible dreams can become realities. As Mandela himself famously said, "It always seems impossible until it's done."